Right, Adriana. So my first question is, how have you been? And give me the most honest answer you can.
Hey, I've been great. I've been busy, but I can't complain because I asked for this life, so I'm good.
And busy doing what?
Busy working, doing real estate, busy being a mom. I have a 2-year-old daughter, so that definitely takes up a lot of my time. And the holidays are coming soon, so me being the mom, it's up to me to, bring the holiday magic to the house. So yeah.
Yeah, so I'm also a realtor too. So let's start there. Tell me about, real estate. How do you like it?
I love it, to be honest. I love the flexibility. I love being able to choose who I want to work with, who I align with, and yeah, I just love it. The ins and outs, even the hiccups that come along, some
Yeah.
deals crash and burn and some
Yeah.
others you have to resuscitate, but I love it personally.
Yeah, so my personal favorite thing about the job is the freedom. I like the ability to wake up whenever I want, sleep whenever I want, no boss. And also you kind of mentioned the ability to spend time with or not spend time with who you want. Like I get to choose who's in my circle, who I
Yep.
see, who I, like no annoying coworkers, because I've had 9 to 5 jobs and I've had a
Mhm.
lot of annoying coworkers and annoying bosses, and it's really nice to have that choice.
Yep.
So how long have you been in real estate now?
So I've actually been licensed for 3 years now,
Nice.
but this was my first like full-time year. As I mentioned before, my daughter's 2 years old now, and I actually got licensed at 7 months pregnant. So, my first year and a half, I really was just focusing on her. So, this year, now that she's a little more independent, yeah, I've been able to really dive deep into doing what I need to do for my clients.
And where are you located?
Well, I live up in Brewster, but I work the Westchester areas like Yonkers, White Plains, Mount Vernon, New Rochelle.
So do you ever come over here to Long Island?
No, no, I don't.
Yeah.
I
Well, I feel
actually
like,
had a closing recently, and my buyer, he chose an attorney all the way out in Hempstead, and
wow.
the closing was like at 9 a.m. I did not make that closing, but everything worked good. And my client, we closed with no problem. So he was happy.
Well, at closings, it's usually the lawyer that does most of the work. Like, actually, at my last closing, they had this weird rule that they made during COVID where the agents had to wait in the lobby. And
Mm.
we literally, like, I wasn't in the closing, I was in the lobby the whole time.
Yeah, well, that
So,
makes sense for COVID times. But I usually like to be at the closing.
yeah.
It's just like the full circle moment with your client. But unfortunately, I feel there's been two closings that I wasn't able to attend. But all my other closings, I like to be there.
Yeah, and I also feel like the client generally wants their the realtor there, but we'll save that
Mhm.
for the real estate podcast. So yeah,
Okay.
let's talk about mental health. So how has your mental health been?
My mental health is good, is a lot better than, what it was back then. I did just come out of a postpartum, after you have a baby.
Hmm.
I'm not sure if you are, too familiar, but, a lot of women suffer with postpartum depression. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, I was one of them,
Hmm.
which, also made working in real estate hard for me. But, things have been a lot more better for me now. I don't have that fogginess anymore, thank God.
Right. So I've heard of postpartum depression. I know it's very, very normal. So help us understand, what it's like, what it feels like, where it comes from. Help us understand.
Well, after a woman has a baby, like your hormones deplete like within the first week, I believe it is. I don't have
Mhm.
the exact statistics, but
Mhm.
yeah, just like a woman's body goes through so much to create life. And after the fact, you're kind of like not just giving birth to a human, but you're kind of like you're almost experiencing a rebirth also as a woman
Wow.
because you no longer have that same independence. You have this little human that's looking at you and depending on you for literally everything. And a lot of women, they I feel like suffer from that postpartum depression because you're just kind of trying to manage this new life. And we still have all our old responsibilities, whether you're married or not. I am. And just it's hard to navigate, but you know, over some time you get used to it. You kind of understand how, what makes the most sense for you. So
Yeah, I'm also wondering like how much of that depression is physiological and hormonal versus like actually rational because your life does change and you have less time. Your kids are very expensive, they cry a lot. So I'm wondering like how much of it is hormonal versus like rational and cerebral.
I would say it's majority hormonal. I'm not sure. Do you have kids?
I don't know.
Okay, so the whole like after you give birth, newborns, they don't know the difference between day and night. So, like those first couple of months, you're trying to navigate through life and on basically no sleep. So, like imagine this for someone who is not waking up at 3 in the morning to a screaming, crying baby, and you have to go to work and you have to deal with family and all these other expectations of life. And, especially as a woman, like literally all I want to do is just sit at home and hold my baby, but I still have to cook. I still have to clean. I still have to show up as as a wife, as a sister, as all these things, all these hats that women have to and responsibilities that we have to take on. And a lot of people just feel like, oh, it's expected of us, and nobody kind of really takes the time to really like understand like this, she's going through a lot right now. And yeah, I think that that's really what it was for me. A lot, all the expectations of other people and also myself made it hard to navigate and come out of that depression. But yeah.
How long did that postpartum depression last?
I want to say at least a year and a
Wow.
half.
That's a long time to be depressed.
Yeah, I mean, luckily I'm the kind of person that I can still put a smile on my face, even if I'm feeling depressed and show up for others. Um, But yeah, it definitely was hard. I had my daughter in July, and then all the holidays came right after. And my husband has this huge family, and like I just felt like everybody was expecting so much from me, and I'm just like, I don't even want to go visit anybody for the holidays. I want to stay home. But it is what it is now. And looking back, I'm glad and about the way how I navigated through things and kind of just setting boundaries where I
Yeah.
normally wouldn't have before.
It sounds like a large part of that depression was other people's expectations.
Yes, yes, and a lot of criticism. Being a first time mom, whether people realize it or not, but people telling you like, oh, you're doing this wrong, you should do it the way I did it with my kids. And
Wow,
it's
that's
just
that's terrible.
it's hard.
That's
It's hard.
terrible.
And you want to be respectful and you want to be nice, but you also want to tell people like fuck off. Like just because you did it this way doesn't mean I have to do it this way. I'm gonna mother the way I feel maternally that I want to do things. And if my daughter's happy and healthy, like let me do things how I want to do it?
Yeah, I mean, one of my biggest pet peeves is when people give advice without like any sort of like asking beforehand. Because like,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to parenting, like, I know that parents really, really hate, pretty much every parent hates being told like how to parent. And I get it. I get it, because I mean, when I look at most parents, it doesn't seem like most parents really know what they're doing, even the experienced ones. And, like a lot of the younger generations, I include us in that, even though I'm 35, a lot of us understand things that the 50, 60-year-olds didn't understand, and there are a lot of new concepts. And I would imagine that must be really annoying to like constantly be told how to parent. That's
Oh
I
yeah.
would want to
I had
smack
to
the
bite
crap
my
out of
tongue a
them.
lot.
Yeah.
I had to bite my tongue a lot. So let's just say that. But
Yeah,
I know it's coming from a good place, but sometimes it's just like I didn't ask you, so please.
yeah, no, and it's true. Like, yeah, but I feel like, it's one thing, like, I'll give you an example, right? Let's just say I said, "Hey, Adriana, would you like some advice on X, Y, and Z?" Like, that's
Right.
different because now I asked you beforehand, and I'm a very, very strong proponent of like asking people beforehand. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's about a respect thing. And, at first, because I used to be a really bad people pleaser, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But, especially after having my daughter, I just
Uh-huh.
had to like really just put my foot down. And it's like, listen, I know you might mean well, but this is how it's going to be done. And if you don't like it, just don't look because I don't want to hear what you got to say. Simple as that.
And
And,
you're the one who calls the shots. You're the mother, and I knowing me, I'd be like, yeah, you're not the mother, you're not the father, you know. So yeah, so
listen, you
let's
got to
talk.
teach people how to treat you.
Yeah,
And I learned that through life that setting boundaries does not make you the villain.
of
You
course.
have to protect your peace. You have to protect your mind and your heart ultimately. And if that means disappointing someone else, well, I'm sorry. Like whoop-de-doo. Sorry.
Yeah,
Sorry.
disappointing other people is absolutely necessary in life. So
Yeah.
let's talk about the people pleasing. Where did that people pleasing nature come from?
I like to say it's because I'm the middle child.
Hmm.
So, yeah, I'm the middle child, but I'm the first daughter. So I have a little daughter. I have a little sister and older brother. So I was the middle child, and I just feel like most of my life I was like the second mom. And in order for me to kind of get the attention and love that I also craved, it was always through like acts of service of things that I did for either my sister or my brother. And yeah, I guess it just really stemmed from that.
So yeah, so you mentioned that you received attention from acts of service.
Well, received the love, I guess. Yeah, either from acts of service. Yeah, I'll say that.
So that's where it came from. So yeah, so I guess my question to you is how are you today? Like are you still that people pleaser? Are you still give like are you
Absolutely
still that?
not.
Oh yeah, you
Absolutely not. Like primero yo, segundo yo, tercero yo. I don't know if you speak Spanish, but that basically means like I'm first, second, and third. And that doesn't mean to like say I'm not here for my husband or my daughter. Absolutely not. But
Mhm.
I'm always there for them, but I can't pour from an empty cup.
Mm.
That's really what separates how I am now to how I used to be before. I used to bend over backwards and completely disregard my own feelings, emotions, time, money to appease other people, whether it be my friends or my family. And I just nipped that shit in the butt. Thank God. So yeah.
Yeah, it's a good thing that you nipped it in the bud before you became a mother because that's when you need to really put your foot down. And
Oh
you
yeah.
know it's all about it's tricky because we have to have this balance of like being, considerate and being compassionate, but not being a people pleaser and not being super passive. So it's a very, very tricky balance that we're constantly like trying to work out because I was the same way by the way when I was a kid and even young in 2021 I was a people pleaser too, and it's difficult because there's like this perfect healthy balance we have to have, you know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah, because I mean, as human beings, we crave love and connection, and that's completely normal feeling and emotion, but we can't sacrifice ourselves in order to, appease other people. Like for my child, yes, I'll die for my child. That's different. But, for Bianca I went to high school with, I don't know who Bianca is, but I'm not going to, spend my last on gas money or just to do something stupid. I mean, if we're like to help people, yes, I will. If someone needs help, I will do it if it's within my power to do so. But if
Uh-huh.
it's not, then unfortunately, like I can help you with look for other resources, but I'm not going to bend over backwards the way I used to.
Yes, same over here. One question that I ask myself a lot is like, what has that person done for me? And a lot of people think that's very like that's a transactional way of thinking, and it kind of is. But I don't necessarily think that there's anything wrong with transactional way as long as it doesn't go too far. I don't think that it's necessarily wrong to think like that. What do you think?
No, not necessarily. I feel like I might help someone out that hasn't helped me out before,
Right.
but it comes to a point where if I feel like the only reason why you reach out to me is because you know that I'll be there for you, then it's like, okay, I'm not gonna allow myself to be used by anyone, but yeah, I definitely feel like relationships should be mutual. I will say that, not necessarily transactional, because a person can't always help you with financial resources, but they might be able to do something else, whether it be like help you with a ride or pick you up from
Mhm.
an airport or whatever the case may be. But I definitely don't feel like friendships should be like tit for tat, but I definitely feel like it should be a mutual love and understanding. Okay, you might ask me to borrow $1,000, and I might have never asked you to borrow $1,000, but you look out for me if I need someone to pick me up from the airport. You've came to the hospital when I had COVID. Just stuff like that, like consideration. You can tell when someone genuinely cares for you. Then I feel like that's a mutual understanding between two people.
Do you have a close group of girlfriends?
No, actually, my best friend in the world passed away a few
Oh,
years ago.
wow.
Yeah, so things have been yeah, I can't. Before she passed away, I did have a group of girlfriends. It was three of us. It wasn't like a huge group of girls that we were together all the time. But yeah, and I do have friends that I hang out with. But now, so much. I just turned 30 years old. I'm more focused on family and my career rather than and I'm also married. Like I'm not gonna just like go out on a girls' night. I might go on vacation, like with one of my girlfriends before I had my daughter. We went to Mexico. Um, But now that I have my child, like it's different. I want to go on like group family trips. Your mindset changes as you get older and you have a family, Might like go out for a birthday party, but I'm not going out on Saturday nights.
Right. I mean, I'm like all about the hustle now. I go out maybe like, I mean, when I do go out, it's usually with my parents and my brother. I
Mhm.
see my friends, every 2, 3 months, so I'm the same way. But I'm also wondering like how losing your best friend affected your friendships today. Like, for example, does it make you like more afraid to gain a friend?
Um, it affected me because it was just a great loss. Like we were childhood friends since like 10 years old.
Uh-huh.
Um, but I wouldn't say that it like her losing her life made me not want to connect with other people. I don't know. It's a hard question. I gotta let me think about that, I guess, a little bit more.
Yeah, it's a hard question, and I don't want to like get too deep because I don't think you're in the mood to cry right now. So
I know, please.
one of my favorite topics to talk about nowadays, especially, is the birth rate is at an all-time low, and I love to talk about like the birth rate and having kids because it's less and less people are having kids every single year. Most of my friends don't have kids. I'm 35. Most of them don't even want kids. Um, and yeah, to be honest, I don't want kids at all right now for a long list of reasons, whether it's
Fine.
financial or whether it's spiritual or emotional. So, I'm wondering like how do you feel about all this?
I feel like especially being a mother, having children is a huge responsibility. And forget about the financial aspect of it, but this little human is depending on you for love, for guidance, for just spending quality time with them. And if that's not something you feel like you're capable of doing right now, whether it be because you're focused on your career or you're focused on whatever case it may be, then I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think it's better for you to not have kids if you don't feel like you're capable to right now for whatever reason, rather than to have children and then the child is neglected and whatever,
Mhm.
whether it's like you can't spend any time with them or you don't have the financial resources.
Mhm.
A child is not an accessory. Like that's a human being that needs a lot poured into them. So, I think the fact that people are finding that they're not having kids is because of a number of reasons. Women are realizing that, a lot of times you get the short end of the stick where you're stuck having to be the only one that's changing the diapers, that's teaching the kid, not just throwing an iPad in their face,
Yeah.
which not to say anything against screen time, because my daughter definitely gets screen time. But, you also do have to sit there and you have to teach your kids emotions, words, like everything. And a lot of women are more career focused now, and they want to travel, they want to have their time and their freedom, and that's not I won't say you don't have any freedom at all, because you definitely do if you have a village, but a lot of women don't have a village because you have a kid and you're not close with your mom or your partner's mom who's gonna watch that baby. I mean, some people you'll give your child to a daycare, but I mean, that's to each his own. That's a whole nother topic of, leaving your kids with strangers, or, you know what I mean, at a young age. I was blessed with the fact that I was able to stay at home with my daughter. But I just think I was actually talking to my husband about this the other day. Like, I can't even believe that some women, after 6 weeks, your baby is still a little potato, and you have to give it to either your mom or a daycare even. And then you have to go back to work. Like, it's baffling. Like, what you should be doing is staying home and bonding with the child. But I understand that some women don't have that luxury. But I think
Right.
it's sad.
Well, if they don't, it's probably for financial reasons. And I'm wondering like through, knowing all of the stress and the struggle and the postpartum depression and the finances and knowing all of this, struggle, what even motivated you to have a child?
Well, I didn't plan to have my daughter, but so my husband and I, we got engaged in August of 2022, and we put a down payment on the venue. I bought my dress. I was making group texts with all my bridesmaids, and then come October, I find out I'm pregnant. And it was like a no-brainer for both of us. We were like, okay, we're having this baby, and we started planning towards our future. And it was the best decision that I could have ever made. Like, nobody understands the love that pours out of you until they've experienced it.
Mm.
So, what I can say is, if you're mentally ready, if you're financially ready, if you're spiritually ready, then yes. But if you feel like there's still things that you need to work on, then work on those things. And if God blesses you with a child, then he does. But, that's my take on it.
Yeah, and I know that there's a lot of pressure because I know that around like 35, 40-ish, a lot of women, they lose fertility and they, I would imagine that there's a tremendous amount of pressure because of the biological clock on women. And, a lot of men don't really know about this or they don't really talk about it, but I would imagine that th there's a lot of pressure, isn't there?
I would say so, but things are changing and I don't have the stats in front of me. If I would have known your questions, I would have had them here. But
Mhm.
um, from what I've understood lately, women are having children a lot later in life now.
Mhm.
A lot of women felt that societal pressure of, oh, I have to get pregnant before 30, and I did have my daughter at 28. But my sister-in-law is 36 and just had her third kid. So there's not necessarily this clock. And if you do feel like, you have this eternal clock, I would just suggest going to a fertility doctor, if you're that paranoid about it. I personally I didn't foresee having a child for another few years, but I don't regret it for 1 second. I love my daughter.
Well, it's also good to have them younger, right? Some people say that when you have them younger, then you have more time with them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's true.
yeah. So that I would say that it's a good thing that you had her at the perfect time. So is it one and done, or do you think you're having more?
The first year while I was depressed, I was like, never again. But
Mm.
now that my daughter's two, And, I see her independently playing sometimes, and I just think like, damn, you need a little sibling, you need a little sister or a little brother. So yeah, I definitely do want to have another child. Like I said, she's 2 now, so God willing, I told my husband I want to get pregnant by April. So this way I have my next child after all the holidays. So this way I don't have to worry about visiting family. I
That's
can
smart.
just stay home until the summertime until I'm ready to work on my summer body.
No, that sounds like a very well thought out agenda. So yeah, another one of my favorite topics to talk about nowadays is marriage. The marriage rate is very, very low. Divorce rate is very high. A lot of people aren't dating. I'm sure you've seen like maybe even on Instagram or with your girlfriends, maybe with your guy friends, like the dating market is just a mess now. Like no, less and less people are getting married, less people are dating. What do you think about this mess?
Well, for starters, I feel like social media and the internet kind of ruined dating for a lot of people. So a lot of people don't even know how to like communicate in person. Like you think that you're talking to someone online, like, and unfortunately people they can scroll and scroll or swipe left and swipe left, and they think there's just so many options out there, and ultimately it's not about the physical. The physical is not who's going to raise your children. The
Yeah,
physical is not who you're going to build a life with,
yeah,
and unfortunately it starts with the mindset. And a lot of I don't know if you heard, there's like a male loneliness epidemic
yeah,
that
yeah,
I've been seeing. Like it's a
yeah,
trending topic that I'm
yeah,
seeing on TikTok and all these
yeah.
other socials. And I would say it really comes down to the fact that um, women are evolving and we're understanding, and our standards are rising because it's we want a partner in life. Like, we don't want to be your second mommy, you know? And unfortunately, a lot of men don't understand that women are just not expecting someone that can bring the financial aspect to the table. It's not just about a guy paying the bills or going 50-50, which seems to be a stupid trending topic. It's about like who's gonna sit next to me at the hospital if something just happened to me. Like, how can we plan together our retirement plan? How can we buy a house together? How are you gonna treat my daughter, our daughter, when she's having an emotional breakdown? Are you gonna sit and listen to her thoughts and feelings? How are you gonna raise your son? And it really comes down to people's mindsets are just in the shitter these days, unfortunately. And yeah, I feel like that's why a lot more people are choosing to be single rather than to be with someone that has a retarded way of thinking just to have a warm body in the bed to sleep with at night. Like, I'll get a pregnancy pillow if that was the case. Because, if the minds are not aligned, it's not going to work in the long run. The physical does not last. Let me tell you something.
Yeah, no, I think
I think
that physical looks is like what initially attracts a person, and so it's like what catches your eye, but it's not what makes the relationship last a long time.
I say it's the cherry on top,
Yeah,
honestly.
that's a good way to put it. And for some people, it's number one.
It's number one, two, and three. Oh, I want a beautiful girl with the voluptuous this, and it's like, but what about how she thinks? How does she treat her parents? How does she treat her siblings? What's her work ethic like? If you're religious, what's her relationship with God? What are her morals? What are her values? And vice versa with a man as well. Like, does some men think that their only job in life is to bring food on the table and they could just come home and lay on the couch and watch the basketball game and you don't have to converse with me or play with the children or take out the garbage, or it's like the bar is in hell, unfortunately.
That
So,
sounded like a very, very specific example.
well, no, by the grace of God, I would not be married right now if my husband wasn't the great man that he is. I'm
Mhm.
very lucky that I have someone who understands what he needs to keep a woman like me.
How did you guys meet?
We actually met because my ex crashed my car, and my
Whoa.
current, yeah, my I was in a relationship for about 10 years, my high
Wow.
school sweetheart.
Uh-huh.
And then things were getting real bad between us, and he crashed my car,
Wow.
and
On
my
purpose.
yes, on purpose. He
Goodness.
was drunk, so by accident on purpose, because I told you not to take my keys, and you took my keys.
I mean, drunk driving either way, that's it's just as bad, even worse.
He crashed into a parked car. So let's
Jesus.
just say that two parked cars. But that's neither here nor there. Um, and my ex, he picked my my husband, uh, towed my car, and we exchanged numbers, and we just started talking, and yeah, like I liked his mindset, and he liked mine, and yeah,
He was the
and
guy, he was the employee that towed your car.
he's the owner. But back then he used to be in the tow truck a lot. Now he doesn't really go in the truck as much. But yeah, he has a tow truck company with a couple of different trucks, and he also has an auto body shop in Yonkers.
He
So
was
yeah,
the hero. He was the hero that
he's
saved
my
this,
hero.
he was the Prince Charming that saved the situation. That's a really see that's an interesting story. Like some people they just meet on Tinder, they just meet and not to say that that's wrong, but it's cool. It's really cool to have an interesting story. So yeah, I mean, to get back to the dating thing, do you think that people have unrealistic expectations nowadays?
Yes. From the woman's side, I feel like some women, they just expect a man to immediately pay all their bills, pay my rent, pay me this, pay me that, pay me this, pay me that. And my opinion on that is, if you are just looking for a sugar daddy, there's websites for that. But if you want a husband, go out to dinner. He should pay, especially if he's asking her out, but it doesn't need to be a five-star roof, Chris. Go out to eat
Cheesecake
or
Factory?
whatever. Well, yeah, Cheesecake Factory. Go to Cheesecake and have a conversation. That's what a lot of people don't know. A lot of people can't go 5 seconds without just being on their phone. And it's like you go out to restaurants nowadays and you see people sitting across from each other just like this. Like people don't talk. People have no idea what's going on in the mind of the person that's sitting across from them. I see it all the time. And yeah, like just have realistic expectations, date, converse. What's your family like? What's your relationship like with your mother? What was your childhood like? Just ask the real questions and get to know the person for who they are, not just how much money they make. And vice versa for men. Stop just looking for the girl with the biggest boobs and the fattest ass. Like find out who she is,
Uh,
what she loves, what she's about, what's her family like, and that's it. And see if you're aligned. Like it's really not that complicated. People are looking for the wrong things, and that's why they end up in situationships or divorced.
Yeah, I think that like there are certain areas where people expectations are too high and maybe even certain areas where they're too low. Like I think people pay way too much attention to money and looks, and not enough attention to like morals and like ethics and belief systems. And I think that there's kind of like this like there's been this like swapping because I feel like back in the day we used to pay more attention to like character and morals, and now it's
You
more
didn't
just
have
about like
social
more
media.
money.
The
Yeah,
social media, a girl take a hot pic and no one cares what she's thinking about. She looks hot. A guy will take a picture in front of a Lamborghini or flashing money, and it's like, ooh, we're attracted to the shiny things and not to the depth and the substance.
the things that will actually like make the relationship last. And not to say money doesn't matter. And I also think that we also live in a society, you know, the cost of living goes up every single year. It goes up. And it's like, how are we not supposed to pay attention to money? How when the cost of living is so damn high, when rent is so high, like how are we not supposed to pay attention to money, you know?
Well, of course. I mean, like, I would feel like no woman wants to be with the bum,
Yeah.
and vice versa. Man shouldn't. I feel like for a man, you don't want to be with a woman that has, this shitty way of thinking, that she thinks that everything she's gonna get in life is from you, especially if you're making like $100,000 a year, which 20 years ago might have been a lot, but nowadays it's sadly not a lot
The
of money.
minimum. I'd say it's the minimum.
Yeah, and it's like you make $100,000 a year, which can sustain a family of three or four, but you're not going to be going to the Maldives and to Vegas and this and that. Like you have to live within your means, and too much people focus on brands and pop culture and all this shit that doesn't matter. Like it doesn't matter. People are very brainwashed, especially in this country, sadly.
Yeah, well, I think as far as like designer goes, I think that a lot of that comes down to like impressing other people, which the root of that is actually insecurity. So I think
Hmm.
insecurity plays a very large role in all that. It's 11:40. I know that you have a long day ahead of you. So I'm gonna let you go. Listen,
Okay.
I would definitely like to have a part two, a real estate podcast, when
Yeah.
you're free, maybe next week. But yeah, it was great having you, Adriana.
Thank you. It was nice talking to you.
You too. Have a good one. Thanks.
Bye.